Rio has been out for a few days now. What reaction are you getting at, I mean, granted, it's only been 3 days since the album went to the public, but have you sensed anything online, anyone who hadn't heard it until Friday, of any particular favorite tracks already?
It's been really positive, and, it's kind of weird sitting in the studio, especially during COVID, putting the album together, and I never played it to anyone, and one of the first people to hear it with the record company, because I didn't do any record deal until I'd finished, and so there was very little input, so I didn't know whether people would love it, hate it, or, but it's been really positive so far. I was really, really happy with it at the end, which is very rarely the case. I'm always thinking, I could have done that differently, so I'm pretty happy with it.
You've talked in some of the previews on this and interviews and whatnot on all of the different styles and genres in it. So from the other perspective, what is the through line through these 10 songs? From your artistic perspective, what's the one thing that ties every single track together, besides obviously you being on every single track?
Yeah, and I think primarily, and yes, it does, one of the problems, but one of the assets in a way is I kind of go down different roads all the time. There's, from country to obviously prog rock and hard rock and different areas. And I think the thing that glues it all together is my voice, and it's just what it is. And I guess my guitar playing or whatever the style is what it is. So I think with those things, it makes it kind of interesting because it's, moving from one vibe to another.
The syllabic vocal harmonies kicks in about 5 minutes into Paradise. You start to hear it a little bit more as the album progresses. As I'm hearing that, and just my mind knowing some of the 80s era Yes stuff, I'm going, oh, this totally is reminding me of Leave It as soon as I hear that. How do you put those harmonies together? What's the production angle on it? I find that to be the most fascinating part of this album. With everything that goes into it already, there's a lot, but how do you do that part, especially for this particular album, all of those harmonies of your voices all stacked?
Well, one in particular called Tumbleweed is it's a very broad jazz chords a lot of the time, the beginning a cappella part, and it's all my voice, but what I do is rather than sit in front of a microphone in one spot, I actually stand in different parts of the studio in like a semicircle around the microphone. So each vocal I'm doing standing in a different spot. So it does have a kind of spread about it, which you can't get if you sit in one spot. Even if you pan it out, it's still basically coming from the same spot. So I found that to be a good way of making the vocal sound 16 voices of the same person sounding interesting.
Which song was the most challenging to, I'll say most challenging to record, not necessarily to arrange, but which was the most challenging to then put onto, like, I'd say tape, but however you recorded it, which was the most challenging to get exactly how you had it in your head?
I think one of the most challenging was a song called Push, because it's pretty up-tempo with a lot of changes in it, and it was during COVID, so doing the drums, I had to send files out to this incredible drummer, Vinny Caliuta, and I remember he said, because usually Vinny would come to the house and record it and at my studio, but he had to record separately, so he sent the files back and he had 3 takes he'd done. He said, just tell me any of these you like, if not I'll do it again. And I called him, I said, every one of them is spectacular, I can't even think of which one to use. Anyway, when I did that, it was challenging because it was his performance was so energetic and inspiring. I literally went and redid a load of instruments again because it needed to be updated.
This has been a very long time, as has been stated in all the preview stuff, and of course, just look at the discography since you last did a vocal album. How would you assess your growth as a musician maybe more specifically as a singer, since that last solo album? I mean, you've sung on other albums, obviously, but for your own material, how would you assess your growth singing your own material on a solo project of yours?
Well, the interesting thing is, I think my vocal range, which is unusual, it usually goes the other way. My range has got better. So notes I didn't know whether I could get or not, I got without too much effort. And so it was probably the most enjoyable vocal performance I've done ever before. And, and I think just as far as musically, just the experience of, having worked extensively with orchestra, doing, look back now, Armageddon seems like a film I did, a year ago, and it's actually 50 movies ago, so this 30 years went by so quickly, and which made this album really inspiring and exciting, because it was like waking up again.
This is a really small part of the album, but I love the little phone interruption thing that happens in Big Mistakes. How did that make it onto that song?
Oh, that's funny. It actually happened exactly as it is. The phone rang, and I didn't say which is on the record. I said something a little bluer than that. but in all honesty, it didn't sound as good as it needed to be, but the placement and what it did was right. So I re-recorded that exact phone and did that frustrated and in the same place, and it kind of worked out to be a little bit of a fun place.
Very nice. So last question for you, is there any material that didn't make the album that you're pondering for any sort of future project?
This was so invigorating to me. I've already decided that my next project is going to be another album. I'm not looking to do anything outside of that for the foreseeable future.
Very good. Well, we got all sorts of whatever else is coming down the road as well. This is a fun album to listen to for now, and it's a great album. Rio, Trevor Rabin, thanks for doing this album. Thanks for getting your voice back out on an album. That's really nice to hear, and thanks for taking some time to chat today.
Great, man. Good talk.